Listen, I'm going to tell you something about female unhappiness that will completely change how you see every complaint, every criticism, every eye roll your woman gives you. And before you start thinking this is some misogynistic rant, understand that what I'm revealing comes from observing thousands of relationships, including my own disasters, and recognizing patterns so consistent they're like laws of physics. There's a mechanism in the female psyche, a program running since childhood, that creates chronic dissatisfaction regardless of external circumstances, and until you understand this mechanism, you'll keep trying to fix problems that can't be fixed, apologize for things that aren't your fault, and slowly transform into a pathetic shell of a man desperately trying to make an unhappy woman happy, which is like trying to fill a bucket with no bottom. You know what's the most common phrase I hear from married men? Nothing I do is ever good enough. He brings flowers, wrong colour. He plans a date, wrong restaurant. He helps with housework, he's doing it wrong. He doesn't help, he's lazy. He works long hours to provide, he's absent. He spends time at home, he's not ambitious enough. This total dissatisfaction, this global criticism of everything he does, thinks, says, or doesn't say, it's not actually about him at all. That is the revelation that will set you free from the prison of trying to please someone who cannot be pleased. I discovered this pattern through painful repetition in my own relationships. There was this period, maybe 5 years, where I dated different women, completely different backgrounds, ages, careers, personalities, but the pattern was identical. Initial happiness, honeymoon phase, then gradually increasing dissatisfaction with everything about me and our life together. First woman complained I wasn't romantic enough, so with the next one I went full romantic. Surprise trips, poetry, the whole production. She complained I was too soft, not masculine enough. Third one, I'm more dominant, take charge, make decisions. She complains I don't consider her opinions enough. You see, yes, the dissatisfaction wasn't actually about my behaviour. It was a pre-existing condition that would have manifested regardless of what I did or didn't do. These women were running ancient programs, some genetic, some from childhood, some from social conditioning, that made happiness impossible regardless of external circumstances. They were unhappy before they met me, they were unhappy with me, and they're unhappy now after me, because the unhappiness comes from inside, not outside. Let me break down the first layer of this, genetics. Research shows that about 50% of personality traits, including optimism versus pessimism, are hereditary. Some women are literally born with brain chemistry that predisposes them to see the negative in everything. Their default setting is dissatisfaction, their baseline is complaint, their normal is unhappy. Without serious conscious effort to rewire these patterns, they'll remain permanently dissatisfied regardless of who they're with or what they have. I've observed this pattern repeatedly in families where the grandmother was chronically unhappy, the mother is chronically unhappy, and now the daughter is chronically unhappy. 3 generations of women who could win the lottery, marry Prince Charming, live in paradise, and still find something to complain about because their brains are wired to focus on what's wrong rather than what's right. It's not a choice, it's a genetic predisposition, like having brown eyes or being left-handed. But genetics is just the foundation. The real damage comes from childhood programming. Every unhappy woman I've known had one of 2 childhood patterns, sometimes both. First pattern, problematic relationship with father. Maybe he was absent, maybe abusive, maybe just emotionally unavailable. She grows up with this deep resentment toward the masculine, this unconscious belief that men will always disappoint her. And guess what? She creates that reality by choosing disappointing men, or by being so impossible to please that even good men become disappointing, trying to meet her impossible standards. Second pattern. She watched her mother be chronically dissatisfied and learned that this is how women are supposed to be. Mother complained about father constantly, criticised everything, was never happy with what she had, always wanted more, different, better. Daughter absorbs this like a sponge, thinking this is normal female behaviour, this is how you do relationships, this is what marriage looks like. By the time she's an adult, the programming is so deep she doesn't even realise she's running her mother's software. Time and again, I see women unconsciously recreating their mother's unhappiness, even when they consciously swore they'd never be like her. They find themselves saying the exact words their mothers said, making the same complaints, creating the same miserable atmosphere they grew up in, because that's what feels familiar, and humans choose familiar over happy every single time if they're not conscious about it. But here's where it gets really twisted. the expectations versus reality gap. Modern women have been sold this fantasy about what relationships and marriage should be. They grow up on Disney princesses, romantic comedies, social media highlights, and they enter relationships expecting to be queens, expecting life to be constant romance, adventure, diamonds and roses. Then reality hits. Bills, chores, routine, normal human flaws in their partner, and the gap between fantasy and reality becomes a source of constant dissatisfaction. I knew this woman, let's call her Anna, beautiful, smart, had everything going for her. She marries this guy who adores her. Good man, stable job, treats her well. 6 months into marriage, she's miserable. Why? Because she expected marriage to heal all her childhood wounds, fill all the holes in her psyche, make her feel complete. When it doesn't, when she still feels empty inside because those holes can only be filled from within, she blames him. He's not romantic enough, not successful enough, not whatever enough to fix what's broken inside her. Many people experience this projection where internal emptiness gets blamed on external circumstances. If only he made more money, I'd be happy. He gets a better job, makes more money, she's still unhappy, now it's, if only we had a bigger house. They get the house, still unhappy. If only he was more attentive. He becomes more attentive, still unhappy. He's too clingy, I need space. The target keeps moving because the dissatisfaction has nothing to do with the target. The gap between wants and possibilities creates another layer of chronic unhappiness. Social media has convinced every woman she deserves a lifestyle that maybe 1% of people can actually afford. She sees influencers in Maldives driving Lamborghinis, living in penthouses, and she thinks this is normal, this is what she should have. Meanwhile, she married a mechanic or accountant or teacher, a normal guy with normal income, and she feels cheated. Like life owes her more, like he's failing by not providing the impossible. I've watched this destroy marriages where the man is killing himself working 60 hours a week, providing a comfortable middle-class life, but she's dissatisfied because her high school friend posts vacation photos from Dubai. She doesn't consider that the friend is drowning in debt, that the photos are edited, that it's all performance. She just knows she doesn't have that life and it must be someone's fault, and the closest target is her husband. But even when women get everything they thought they wanted, the dissatisfaction continues through what I call the devaluation mechanism. It's like a psychological law. The moment something becomes hers, it loses value in her eyes. When she was single, she wanted a boyfriend. Gets boyfriend, now she wants marriage. Gets married, now she wants a different kind of man. It's the same with everything. Wants curly hair, gets perm, wants straight hair, wants bigger breasts, gets surgery, focuses on some other flaw. Wants a career, gets career, wants to be a stay-at-home mum, gets that, wants career back. This devaluation happens with partners too. The man she couldn't live without becomes the man she can barely tolerate. His jokes that were charming become annoying. His stability that was attractive becomes boring. His attention that was romantic becomes suffocating. Nothing changed except her perception. But she doesn't recognize this as her own psychological pattern. She thinks he changed. He tricked her. He's not who she thought he was. You see, yes, envy and comparison are poisoning female happiness at levels never before seen in human history. Every woman now has a window into thousands of other women's lives, or at least the curated versions they present online. She sees her colleague's anniversary gift, her sister's renovation, her friend's weight loss, her neighbour's new car, and every single thing becomes evidence of her own life's inadequacy. It happens more often than people realise that women create entire narratives of dissatisfaction based on these comparisons. Sarah's husband took her to Paris for their anniversary, you just took me to dinner. Never mind that Sarah's husband also cheated twice and they're in counselling. Maria's husband helps with the kids constantly. Never mind that Maria's husband is unemployed and has nothing else to do. She sees only what others have that she doesn't, never what she has that others don't. The social media effect cannot be overstated. Every woman is now comparing her real life to everyone else's highlight reel, her actual relationship to everyone else's performance, her genuine struggles to everyone else's filtered perfection. This creates a permanent state of feeling less than, of feeling cheated, of feeling like everyone else got the good life while she got stuck with reality. But here's something most men don't understand. Many women are deeply insincere, not because they're bad people, but because they've been taught since childhood to wear masks, play roles, be whoever they need to be to get and keep a man. They present themselves as easygoing when they're high maintenance, as sexual when they're frigid, as domestic when they hate housework, as agreeable when they're controlling. Then after marriage, when the mask comes off, they're angry at having to pretend for so long and angry at him for not seeing through the mask. I've observed this pattern countless times where women feel they can't be their authentic selves because their authentic self wouldn't be chosen. So they perform, and performance is exhausting, and exhaustion breeds resentment, and resentment manifests as chronic dissatisfaction. She's unhappy because she's not being real, but she can't be real because she believes her real self isn't good enough, so she stays trapped in this performance that makes everyone miserable. The immaturity factor is huge and getting worse with each generation. Many women enter relationships having no idea what they actually want, just knowing what they're supposed to want according to society, friends, family, Instagram. They've never developed their own values, their own goals, their own sense of self separate from external validation. So they get into relationships for the wrong reasons, stay for the wrong reasons, and wonder why they're unhappy. These women lack boundaries because they don't know where they end and others begin. They absorb everyone's emotions, everyone's problems, everyone's expectations, and then feel overwhelmed, exhausted, dissatisfied with a life that isn't even really theirs. They chose a partner based on what would impress others, a lifestyle based on what looks good on social media, a path based on what they think they should want rather than what they actually want. Then there's the feminist superiority complex that's been programmed into modern women. They've been told they're queens, goddesses, prizes to be won, that they deserve everything, and men should be grateful for their mere presence. This creates a dynamic where they see men as inferior beings who exist to serve them, provide for them, worship them. But here's the paradox. You can't respect what you see as inferior, and you can't be happy in a relationship with someone you don't respect. I knew this woman who literally called men animals unironically, said things like all men are dogs, while simultaneously wondering why she couldn't find happiness in relationships. She treated every man like a servant who should be grateful for the opportunity to provide for her, then wondered why she felt empty, why the relationship felt hollow. You cannot feel genuine connection with someone you see as beneath you. It's psychologically impossible. Many people experience the confusion of dating women who seem to actively sabotage their own happiness. She says she wants stability, then creates chaos. Says she wants peace, then starts fights. Says she wants love, then pushes away affection. This isn't conscious manipulation, it's unconscious programming playing out. She's recreating the dysfunction she knows because dysfunction feels like home. The childhood wounds run so deep that many women don't even recognize happiness when they experience it. I've watched women in genuinely good relationships create problems from nothing because the peace feels wrong, the stability feels suspicious, the happiness feels temporary, so why not destroy it now rather than wait for it to inevitably end? They're so convinced that happiness is impossible that they make it impossible. Many people experience the confusion of dating women who seem to actively sabotage their own happiness. She says she wants stability, then creates chaos. Says she wants peace, then starts fights. Says she wants love, then pushes away affection. This isn't conscious manipulation, it's unconscious programming playing out. She's recreating the dysfunction she knows because dysfunction feels like home. The childhood wounds run so deep that many women don't even recognize happiness when they experience it. I've watched women in genuinely good relationships create problems from nothing because the peace feels wrong, the stability feels suspicious, the happiness feels temporary, so why not destroy it now rather than wait for it to inevitably end? They're so convinced that happiness is impossible that they make it impossible. Time and again, I see women destroying good relationships because of what I call grass is greener syndrome on steroids. It's not just thinking someone else might be better, it's being bombarded daily with images and stories of how much better everyone else has it. Her feed is full of engagement announcements, baby announcements, promotion announcements, vacation photos, transformation photos, and each one feels like evidence that she chose wrong, settled for less, missed out on more. The biological clock adds another layer of dissatisfaction that men rarely understand. Women have a limited window for certain life experiences, marriage, children, building a family, and this creates an underlying anxiety that poisons happiness. She's either rushing to meet milestones and unhappy about the pressure, or she's met the milestones and unhappy they didn't fulfill her like she expected, or she's missed the milestones and unhappy about what she'll never have. I remember talking to this woman in her late 30s, successful career, nice apartment, decent relationship, but absolutely miserable. She said something that stuck with me. I did everything right according to the plan I made at 20, but the plan was wrong, and now it's too late to change course. She'd prioritised career over family, city life over community, independence over interdependence, and now felt trapped by her own choices with no way to undo them. The manipulation and testing that women do, often unconsciously, creates its own unhappiness. They test boundaries to feel secure, but the testing creates conflict. They manipulate to get needs met, but manipulation destroys trust. They create drama to feel intensity, but drama exhausts everyone. They're literally creating the conditions for their own unhappiness, while believing they're trying to achieve happiness. You see, yes, there's also the princess programming from childhood that sets women up for permanent dissatisfaction. Every little girl is told she's special, unique, deserving of Prince Charming, deserving of a fairy tale life. Then she grows up, and reality is mundane. Her Prince Charming has morning breath and dirty socks. The castle is a 2-bedroom apartment, and there's no happily ever after, just daily life with its normal challenges and disappointments. The economic reality adds another layer. Women have been sold the idea that they can have it all: career, family, romance, adventure, wealth, fulfillment in every area simultaneously. But reality involves trade-offs. Career success often means less family time. Family focus often means career sacrifices. Financial security often means less adventure. But acknowledging these trade-offs feels like failure, like settling, so they remain perpetually dissatisfied with whatever they've chosen. I've watched successful career women miserable because they don't have families, and stay-at-home mothers miserable because they don't have careers, and women trying to do both miserable because they're exhausted and feel they're failing at everything. The have-it-all myth has created a generation of women who feel like failures no matter what they achieve because there's always something they're not achieving. But here's the darkest truth about female unhappiness. For many women, it's become an identity. They bond with other women through complaining. They get attention through being victims. They avoid responsibility by blaming dissatisfaction on others. They've been unhappy so long they don't know who they'd be if they were happy. Happiness would require changing everything about how they relate to the world, and that's terrifying. Many people experience this weird dynamic where attempting to make an unhappy woman happy actually makes things worse. You solve one problem, she finds another. You meet one need, she develops another. You fix one complaint, she creates another. Because the unhappiness isn't about the problems, it's about the identity, the familiar feeling, the known state of being. Happiness would be foreign, uncomfortable, suspicious. The therapy culture has made this worse in many ways. Instead of learning to be grateful, to accept imperfection, to take responsibility, many women learn to pathologize everything, to see trauma everywhere, to blame childhood for adult choices. They develop what I call therapeutic narcissism, endless focus on their own wounds, their own needs, their own healing journey, with no awareness of how their unhappiness affects everyone around them. I knew this couple where the woman had been in therapy for 10 years, and instead of getting happier, she'd become more dissatisfied because now she had psychological language to justify every complaint. He didn't validate her feelings enough. He was emotionally unavailable when he was tired after work. He was gaslighting her when he disagreed with her memory of events. The therapy that should have helped her take responsibility instead gave her more sophisticated ways to blame him. The solutions to female unhappiness exist, but they require things most modern women won't do: genuine self-reflection, taking responsibility, lowering expectations to match reality, practicing gratitude, choosing meaning over happiness, accepting imperfection in themselves and others. These aren't sexy solutions, they don't make good Instagram posts, they don't get validation from other women, but they actually work. It happens more often than people realize that women only become capable of happiness after multiple relationship failures force them to look inward. After blaming 3 or 4 different men for their unhappiness, some women finally realize they're the common denominator. After creating the same problems in different relationships, some recognize their own patterns. After losing good men to their chronic dissatisfaction, some finally value what they had. But for most women, the unhappiness continues because it's easier than change. It's easier to blame him than examine herself. It's easier to want more than appreciate what is. It's easier to complain than take action. It's easier to stay unhappy than do the work happiness requires. And in a culture that tells women they're perfect as they are and any unhappiness is someone else's fault, why would they change? The impact on men is devastating. Good men spend years, decades, entire lives trying to make unhappy women happy, not understanding it's impossible. They sacrifice their own needs, their own happiness, their own identity, trying to fill a hole that can't be filled from outside. They develop anxiety, depression, lose confidence, lose themselves trying to please someone who cannot be pleased. Time and again, I see men destroyed by this dynamic, reduced to shells of themselves, apologizing constantly for existing, walking on eggshells in their own homes, afraid to breathe wrong because it might trigger another round of dissatisfaction. They think, if they just try harder, do more, be better, she'll finally be happy, but she won't because the unhappiness isn't about him. The hardest truth for men to accept is that you cannot make an unhappy woman happy. If she was unhappy before you, she'll be unhappy with you and unhappy after you. Your presence, your efforts, your love cannot cure what's broken inside her. Only she can do that work and most won't because it's easier to blame you than fix themselves. This doesn't mean all women are chronically unhappy or that happiness is impossible in relationships, but it does mean that many women carry programming, wounds, expectations and patterns that make happiness extremely difficult regardless of external circumstances. And if you're with one of these women, you need to understand that her unhappiness is not your fault, not your responsibility, and not within your power to fix. The test is simple. Was she happy before you met her? Does she have a pattern of happiness in other areas of her life? Does she take responsibility for her own emotional states? Does she practice gratitude regularly? Does she have realistic expectations? If the answer to these questions is no, then you're with someone who's chronically unhappy, and that's not going to change because of anything you do or don't do. That is why women are always unhappy, not because of men, not because of circumstances, but because of internal programs running since childhood that create dissatisfaction regardless of external reality. Understanding this doesn't solve the problem, but it frees you from the futile effort of trying to fix what you didn't break and can't repair. Her happiness is her responsibility, and until she takes that responsibility, she'll remain unhappy no matter what you do, who she's with, or what she has.